Good afternoon, everybody. As always, welcome back to Robots and Red Tape. I am your host, Nick Shutt. The episode that is coming out this week is a special episode. It's a joint episode with my friends over at That Tech Pod. That Tech Pod, if you guys don't know, everybody should check it out. It's a weekly podcast focused on e-discovery, cybersecurity, data privacy, and the other technologies that are shaping modern legal and compliance teams. Hosted with Laura Milstein and Kevin Albert. They have over 280 episodes to date, nearly 10,000 weekly downloads since 2024. Fantastic show. I highly recommend everybody check it out. The guests that are on today, it's a little fireside chat that we did is with Laura Milstein and Kevin Albert. Laura is a global leader in e-discovery and cybersecurity. Her career spans sales, business development, and executive leadership. She's currently the vice president of cybersecurity and application development at AITHERAS, and a good friend of mine. She's awesome. And Kevin Albert is a legal technology and operations leader with over 25 years of experience building and running large-scale e-discovery, analytics, and legal operation programs across government, law firms, and consulting. He's currently the director of sales engineering at Casepoint, where he leads global teams responsible for solution design, managed services, managed services delivery, and operational strategy for enterprise and government clients. Uh, it's a very exciting episode, a little different than the ones that we normally do. And as always, I really just want to thank all of you for listening, for being part of this podcast and being a part of this journey that I'm on. So thank you, everybody. And without further ado, here is the episode with Laura and Kevin.
Nick, I'm loving your background.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. When you got the video going, you need to act like you have
Yeah.
a podcast studio, not just you're sitting in your house, right? Like,
No, it's so official. And where's the photo of me though? I can see the wall of pictures, but where am I? I don't get it.
I
That
don't
should
know.
be up there.
Well, listen, we should take a screenshot out of this and throw it up there for you,
Yes.
right? Like this way,
Yes. Let's
yeah,
put
this way, yeah, mhm, absolutely. It's what Jesus would do. It's cross promotion. You'd
yeah,
probably put
it,
that in there.
no, I love it. It's true. You know what? We're just keeping it holy.
hmm
So for this episode, since we're both kind of in this and we're in this industry, we're in this time, something interesting I want to bring up is we're talking about recruiting, we're talking about interviews, and I actually spoke with someone today that I'm going to introduce you to as a side note, but she reached out basically with this awesome resume. I looked at her resume and she went to Stanford. She
hmm
has tons of experience on government contracts, like big major companies, Booz Allen. I can't think of any of the big four right now. KPMG, whatever. I don't remember the exact ones, but
hmm
great experience, great resume, has a good skill set. And she was saying that, and she's currently employed, but she's on a project that's going to be rolling off soon. So she's like proactively looking at where's the next step? Where should I go? Which to
hmm
me is the best position to have. And she said she's struggling to find a job. And I was thrown by this because, again, great resume, great skill set. I spoke with her and I'm like, she's an ideal candidate. Like, she can communicate, she understands the things. Where do you think, like, from your side of things, where do you think that there's like some sort of gap in this? And Kevin, jump in too, because we're roundtabling here. But when I spoke with her, I was just like, how does she
Yeah.
not? How is she struggling?
You have to remember the year the last year and where we were, right? So, it's January of 26 right now as we're recording this, and it's January 20th. So officially for the last year, there's been a lot of turmoil within the government space, right? And you have to think about the number of RIFT federal employees, all the contracts that have been canceled and cut, where things are. Spending has gone up though, but as you look at this environment as these, and I'd assume she's probably local in the DC area as well, or somewhere around one of the big government contracting hubs.
Yep.
The flood of folks that have been let go predominantly end up or are in this area, right? Or in the area, they're all centralized in specific areas. And then them plus all the federal folks means that there's just been a flood of people on the market. It's been very, very, very difficult for folks to find jobs. I've talked to people that are incredibly qualified that can't find a gig. And so I think that, right now, just where we are, it's just been like the market has been overly saturated with high quality talent, especially high quality cleared talent. which is going to be short-lived, right? Because I also think that when you start looking out years, right, as the government has had all this turmoil internally, the clearance process, which has been slow historically to begin with, especially after the Snowden thing happened, was that 15 years ago or so now, 12 years ago or so, especially as that's happened and the clearance process has slowed down slowed down with the increased inefficiency and the increased turmoil in the government. I think the clearance processing is going to slow down even more, which is going to lead to a even more reduced cleared candidate pool in out years. What do you think? And how are you seeing it? And how have you seen this market?
Well, I also think one of the interesting things is sort of again, if this person is a consultant, that's kind of a taboo word right now, right? You're seeing
Mhm.
people are like, oh my God, I can't believe we're going to bring in consultants into the market. And so I think some of these companies, the big four, even the one tier down, the FTIs, the CGIs, some of these other companies where they, rely on government contracts, they're having a hard time kind of breaking through that wall right now because the government is basically saying we want to try to fill these with either existing federal people or laid off federal people and what have you. And so some of these external contracting firms, these consulting companies are struggling and I think in a way that they haven't really ever had to do before. When I was at Amentum, we had some that were just sort of like printing money. Now it sounds like it's just a lot more competitive and it's a lot more difficult. And so I think you're right. The talent pool is obviously is a flood of people, but also I think the industry itself is a lot more hard to get, through that gate from talking to people. I think that's a big deal right now.
Totally. Do you guys think that it's still like the niche? Like I feel like maybe 10 years ago, not even maybe 5 years ago, to be a consultant was so exciting. And you meet all these, it's like right out of college, you're going straight into Deloitte or Booz Allen or one of these. You're drinking the Kool-Aid, you're at every corporate happy hour trying to climb the ladder. Life is amazing. And then you hit that certain age where you're thinking, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm getting burnt out. I don't want to be on a plane for, traveling 4 days a week and doing this whole thing. And you kind of switch to maybe I don't want to be a consultant anymore. What does that even mean? Maybe I want to move more into a tech related where I'm actually more hands-on.
Mhm.
And I wonder if it's still like, is it still like I'm a consultant and I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, or are we dead from that? What do you guys think?
Depends. It depends. Entirely depends on the person. It also, I think it depends on the industry,
Yeah,
as well. But I also think that consultants specifically, like the consulting industry in general, I'm not a huge fan of a lot of it because people that have only ever been consultants never have to live with the consequences of the suggestions and decisions that they suggest companies to make, right? So you can
yeah,
suggest, hey, you should do this thing, and then you're out in a month, right? Or a year. And then the company needs to sit with the consequences of that. And not having not sat through those consequences, I think leads to a very biased view on the industries that you consult in.
totally. Well, Nick, from your side,
Hmm.
and I'm thinking out loud on this because we're a fireside chatting, and you kind of are that intermediate person. So Kevin may be hiring somebody at his company. I might hire somebody for my company, but you're kind of hiring for different people's companies and getting people in these things in
Hmm.
these different positions. Do you find it difficult to be putting in somebody at a con as a contractor as opposed to an employee? Like, are people more against that? I kind of think at this point, if I were to go somewhere else, I'd maybe rather be contracted. In a weird way, I think it's kind of shifted where I used to
Yeah.
really love the idea of being an employee, which I am an employee, but
Hmm.
next time around, I'm
Yeah.
going to contract, I think.
Yeah, I think it depends. I think it really depends, Laura. I mean, that's an excellent question. I think it depends on the position you're going in, right? Like if I'm hiring, say, a pricing analyst for a company, right? Or a program manager sitting over a whole 100-person program or something, which I'm doing right now. You don't want you don't want that person to be a consultant, right? You want them to be intern. You want them to be internal, right? Pricing because, well, I mean, of course, they're going to have all your sensitive data, and then like program managers, you don't want to outsource your program management to like a subcontractor or to another company, right? But you really want
Yeah,
that person to be internal. I think it also just depends on the company itself, right? Like a lot of folks, the reason that I'm not going to say the worker bees, but for like the more like frontline employees, they want to try before they buy. So they'll have them as a contractor for 6 months and then flip them, right? So things like that, it really just depends on you and your approach, right? What do you think, Kevin?
yeah, Kev, where you at? Kev's
I think I
shy
agree. I
today.
mean, I think from an employer standpoint, obviously the contractor, you get to exactly right. Try it before you buy it. From an employee standpoint, there's just no protections anymore. And I think people are just a little bit more jaded. And
Hmm.
so they're just not willing to, kind of give somebody a free pass. They want, the benefits, they want all these other things. And so I think the lifestyles have changed. I mean, to your question, Laura, that you just kind of had posed a moment ago about sort of the entry level consultant, I think some of
Yeah.
that is that the times have changed. That's how I started my career. I was in the big four. I used to love it, and all,
It was
but
the best. It's the
the
coolest
problem
then,
is,
yeah.
the a lot of things have changed, right? One, even just a basic thing, the Me Too movement. When you would go to these events, people would drink a lot, people get a little gropey. There was a lot of things. I mean, people,
You just can't
so
grow up anyone
well, I mean,
anymore.
you,
It's
you
just
can't do that, but
times have
also like
changed.
It's
travel
tragic.
expenses. People don't want to pay for the cost anymore. People don't want to do all
Yeah.
those things. And so I
Mhm.
think some of
Yeah.
it is that, but also I think the young people, like they're just not drinking as much. They're not, going out as much. They're not doing a lot of that. So it's attracting a little bit of a different person who comes in the
Mhm.
door. And so I think it's kind of
Yeah.
all the things together.
So
Wait,
you're
I
saying
have
we
to
should
Yeah.
bring
I have
back
to
alcoholism?
jump on this.
Yeah.
Sorry, just as like a quick little tidbit about how the younger people aren't drinking as much.
Yeah.
So I have heard and I agree that the younger, like the Gen Z and below, are kind of like anti-alcohol, but I also read that they're aging a lot more, which is a
Mhm.
weird thing that they were saying like millennials are looking younger than Gen Z. So
Mhm.
turns
Yeah,
out might want to drink if you want to
right.
look
We
youthful.
I mean, but
also,
but
as
how
a
much of that is like Botox and things like that, where there used to be way more of a stigma on it, and now there's
Self-care.
not.
yeah,
But no, but I mean,
absolutely.
but I think that's the thing. Like, you've got the money to be able to do it, right? At our age bracket, we've got a little bit more flexible cash than someone who is 20, and so
Yeah.
I wonder how
But
much of
but
it is.
Nick, were you drinking in your 20s and do you drink now? Because I was and I do. And
Uh-huh.
then there's a difference
Exactly.
between unhealthy drinking and just living.
Well, I mean, some of the statistics that I've read around, specifically around like the drinking piece, is that millennials as a generation drink and have drank more than any other generation ever.
Yes.
Which first of all, we're the best at something. Like that's,
Hell yeah.
yeah, we got to be you got to be the best. Like what a thing to be known for. But second as well, I think that like probably a lot of this also stems from like think about the times that like we grew up in, but also the times that these kids now went through. I just had a guy on Robots and Red Tape episode that came out like last week, a gentleman named Jeff Riley, he runs this MIT-backed nonprofit called Day of AI, which is absolutely fascinating, teaching parents, school systems, and teachers how to talk to children about AI, kids about AI. He was in public education for 40 years. He was the commissioner of education for the state of Massachusetts for the last 7 years of his career. And we were talking a lot about about test scores, right? So test scores, if you look at test scores in this country, they peaked in 2012, right? And a lot of the reason I started Robots and Red Tape is like when you look at what happened in 2010 with the ubiquity of the smartphone, the rise of Instagram, and the direct correlation between that combination and rising rates of mental health disorders among children, you can see how these societal changing technology rollouts have unintended consequences. And I think that we as a generation, we were in person and we developed social skills in a way because we had to, right? And when you look at this generation, that where they are now, from like 2010 through now, like you look at the proliferation of social media and of smartphones and the proliferation and increase in all of the increase in technology and the in your life, you see how that changes things, right? And we're looking at this now, and it's not just the mental health thing, it's the lack of social skills. And one of the things that Jeff said is that he, over the last like 18 months, when he was the commissioner of the state commissioner of education in Massachusetts, he implemented a whole bunch of cell phone ban policies, right? Where you either had to like put your phone in a specific spot, or like those pouches that you can put them in, and then
Yeah,
you
yeah,
can
and it
have
like
your phone
blocks it.
still,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But he told me he got calls from multiple principals of schools that he oversaw that told him that like kids were talking in the lunchroom again. Before, it would be a dead silent lunchroom and everybody would just be sitting there staring at their phone the entire time, right? Which to me is just
Interesting. Yeah,
it's a crazy concept, right? But you
yeah.
think about that as a microcosm, which leads to these other, like you can see the downstream effects and behaviors of this. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about making sure that we are being intelligent about how we implement artificial intelligence, especially within school systems and with kids, right? I don't know if you guys saw, there was a news article that came out, I want to say yesterday, where some young man he died from a drug interaction that ChatGPT told him was okay. It was like a prescription, like not like a drug abuse. Like it was like,
Yeah,
ChatGPT
that's
told him it was
crazy.
fine, right? And this poor young man died because he took the advice of AI, right? And you see
Yeah.
that, you see,
Well,
I've done
there's been
episodes about
suicide
like
ones too. Like
idle.
there was like that one
Yeah,
kid that was like,
right.
I think I want to take my life. Should I tell my parents? And ChatGPT was like, no,
Hmm.
don't tell them. And then he took his life, and then the parents
Yeah,
started suing for it. Kids is a
correct.
huge thing, and you're right. But I want to
Right.
ask this, and Kevin, you have kids, so
Hmm.
you'll probably be great to weigh in here because I don't believe in that. But
Hmm.
but here's one thing. Back in the day, during the millennial time and even before, when there was a school shooting, think Columbine, right? Or when 9/11
Hmm.
happened, you're in school at these like big scary moments and you're thinking, how do I get a hold of my parents? How do I do these things?
Hmm.
And you don't have a phone, you don't have a way to access it. And
Hmm.
at that point, I think we were more resilient. I was like, I will flag down a cab. Now it's like
Hmm.
Uber. There's like other things and other
Yeah.
ways to do it. But my question is like, where is that line? Because to some extent, I agree with you. You should be interacting, go outside, play, like go play Manhunt or whatever neighborhood
Hmm.
games you're playing. And instead of just sitting there staring at the screen, however, we didn't have that. So it's not like we could say we would choose that over that because it was a different lifestyle. Kevin, you have kids. Weigh in here. What are your thoughts?
I mean, it's interesting. We definitely see it in this generation. So my kids are, I have a 19, a 17, and a 13-year-old. And so like even just watching their interaction, I mean, we all had places to go, right? We would go to the mall, we would go to the movies, we would go to arcades. Like there were things to go, even just to go and like mill around outside of a store. These just generation doesn't really go anywhere because they don't have to. They can interact online, they can be in chat groups, they can be in places with their friends, even just to go to the movies. Like my daughter, she very rarely goes to the movies. She'll just download or pirate a movie and they'll just sit around her laptop and just watch the movie. And so it's just interesting, like watching this generation, they don't really go out as much. They don't really do as many
Hmm.
things as social interactions, but they're not doing the social interaction. They're just doing it all online. And so
Right.
for us, we see that interestingly. I mean, even just like we tried to get my daughter to get her driver's license, this generation, they don't really have a desire or need to do that anymore. Where for I think our group and even just the one kind of right around us, I think I'm a little bit older than you guys. It was sort of freedom. It was how you got from place to
Hmm.
place. Was you had to do it. You had no choice. There weren't those other options because your parents are working or whatever, and so you didn't have the ability to get in a car, what
Hmm.
have you. And if you lived in the suburbs, there weren't taxis and all these things. And so now there isn't that push because you can just still be in a Discord group or be in a game chat or whatever to talk to your friends. And so I think it's a very much of a different mindset shift and a different situational shift more so than anything else. And so I don't know if we're losing the social skills as much as they're just now transferring it to online. And so there's way less just like human communication. It's all through the screen. And so sometimes you can be a little bit more forthcoming. You can curse a little bit more. You can do some of the things that we kind of took very like close to the vest, and now it's just all shifted. And so for me, I do think that piece of it is just interesting. But I don't think there's just I don't think it's less. I just think it's now in a very very different manner the way it's happening.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you on that. But that being said, I think you lose a lot when your communication is predominantly online, right, or predominantly through a device, right? That's before you even mention the data concerns and like who owns you and who's tracking you and who owns all that data, right? Before we even talk about that, right? You lose a lot. Like I know that going out and hanging out with friends and being around people and being, engaging in person has a it's very, very different and it develops different social skills, right? Because they are skills. It's not like it's something you can learn. That's why it's like when people are like, I'm not good at talking to people. I'm like, "Well, just go talk to more people, right? It's practice. We're talking about practice here, to quote Allen Iverson. But it's one of the things that I'm concerned about is that like, you see the mental health costs around just Chat GPT, right? Specifically, or these big language models, right? That's not the insidious part. Like that's terrifying. But the insidious part is you see these AI friends, AI significant others apps that are out there. Like we all have been through the incredibly awkward dating phases, right? Where we're figuring ourselves out, figuring our life out, like making mistakes, and it's cringeworthy and it's hard to put yourself out there in a way. But when you're interacting exclusively with a chatbot that is designed to keep you engaged, so it's never going to disagree with you or piss you off or anything, like it changes the stakes of interactions in ways.
Have either of you seen the show Pluribus on Apple TV?
I've heard good things though.
Yeah,
Watch it.
I haven't watched it yet, but
Watch it.
it's out there.
Immediately watch it. The first episode, I was kind of like, is this sci-fi? This is not for me. And then
Mhm.
being somebody who's into AI and tech and like the world is going to end, but like I'm ready for it, but am I? By this second, third episode, you start getting really sucked in. And then by the ninth, which is the finale, you're just like, I need the next season. But I don't want to ruin it at all. I will just say it's touching on some of the things that we're talking about. And I think there's a lot of these theories of like, this utopia where if you look at like the movie Her when you're talking about dating a bot and what really is great. And I do think that there are some people that generally are better off not even communicating with other humans. Like they should be alone, they should be there with their bot, they should live their life. But I think for the majority of us, having some sort of self-expression, having something that we're living for that isn't, to your point, Nick, just telling us what we want to hear and isn't just adapting to what we need, but is like the whole point of relationships. When you're having a relationship, whether it's dating or other, there is growth in it. Even this conversation right now, if we're talking and I'm like here and you guys are like, I absolutely agree. You are correct. Where are we going with it? It's the fact that we can give different perspectives, we can have different feedback. And I think AI assisting us with that to make us better, incredible. Getting a job and saying, here's my resume, can you tweak it to help me stand out more? Great. But when you rely on it too much and then the resume isn't even you anymore,
Mhm.
then you're getting a job that's not, you're not even, that it's just not, no, I hate it. It's
Yeah.
that
It's
fine line
also
constantly.
it's also to your point, like, yeah, listen, the online communication via texting, whatever, like that's fine, right? But how much of communication is nonverbal? I think I've read over 50%, over 70% of communication is nonverbal, right? And even this, where we're like on video and we're talking, is very, very different than an in-person thing, right? And like I threw an event last week down at the National Law Enforcement Museum. I had like 140-ish people there. It was great. A lot of designed as like two-way interaction, but we had somebody from the Mid-Atlantic chapter of the Make-A-Wish Foundation come out. A friend of mine, Raylene Grant, came out and gave a presentation because we were raising money for them, specifically a fund that they have called Operation Dreammaker, which grants the wishes of children of active duty military members and veterans, specifically within the DC area, which is awesome cause, right? But like when she spoke to everybody, like you could feel the power of her in the room, right? Like you could feel it. You could feel how it was affecting people in the room in a way that you just couldn't you if it was online, you never would have felt that. You never would have seen that. You never would have it would not have been as powerful or as meaningful as it was in person.
Sometimes I forget that we're on a video and that you can see me reacting. And I love it. I love that we're doing this. For all of you who are actually watching us or even just listening, all of Nick's episodes are on camera, and we only do a specific amount on camera. We try to make it like these are the special episodes. And that's not to say other ones aren't, but we're just not always on the camera. And I love it because to the point you just made, Nick, like even though we're not necessarily sitting next to each other, having a face-to-face interaction, there's you can't take away the value that it gives you. I want to know just from your perspective how things have changed and you're in a position again like you're helping people get jobs, but you're also helping companies find the right candidates. Do you ever find yourself in a position where you do see a resume that looks amazing and it's you don't necessarily know, but it's clearly like an AI written one, but it looks great, and then you talk to the person and you're just kind of like, why? Like, why did you put me in this position? And like, how do you handle that? Like, do you tell them you and your resume are not one? Like,
No,
what do you say to somebody in that position?
no, so I don't actually, it's funny. I don't really read resumes, right? Um,
How do you
Ever.
how do you place people if you don't look at their resumes?
Oh, I look at their resumes. I don't read them, right? Like I don't sit there and read the resume at all, right? So my hiring rule, I call it the 10-40-50 rule. I believe anytime you're hiring somebody, 10% of your decision will be based on like education, certifications, right? If you're hiring a program manager, do they need to have a PMP? Things like that, right? 40% is going to be your hands-on skill set, and if they have the ability to do the job. The other half is personality, soft skills, corporate culture fit, right? Good employees are not made because of certs And they're not made because of experience. They're made because of who they are. The resume is a representation of them. So I frankly quickly go ahead. I do a quick smell test, right, on these resumes and see if they have the things I'm looking for, or if it's close enough to warrant a conversation. And the first time my first question when I interview people is always the same. I start it the same way. I ask them to tell me about themselves, their background, and what they're looking for, right? I do not judge people on their resume ever. The resume is just like literally it's just a smell test. I judge people because I'm not recruiting a skill set. I'm recruiting a person, you know? And that is a huge distinction. I mean, it's a very, very minor distinction, but it plays out it has huge implications.
Yeah, but how often are you adjusting, knowing candidates are using AI to prep their answers, to, take their resume and say, make me a 2 minute elevator pitch that I can open my interview with, type of thing. How
Mhm.
are you dealing with those type of situations
Just
when
ask them more
now it's
questions.
just another piece in another tool in their toolbox?
I ask them questions. I don't actually, so I just ask them more questions. And the substance of what they're saying is a lot less important than the delivery of how they're saying it. Again, I am literally interviewing people trying to understand specifically if this person is a good fit with the company, right? So the most important part of any recruiting or any hiring process is defining your requirements out, right? That's like understanding the role, defining what you're doing, like understanding who they're going to interact with, understanding the amount of handholding they're going to have, like who's the client, what's the client, what's important to the client. If I'm like say working on as a subcontractor for somebody like a DOJ or EPA, where it doesn't matter the agency, right? Understanding the end client, what they're looking for in their priorities. Because again, I'm looking for the right person. I'm not looking for the right skill set. And the best way to do that is to interview them. But I've also been interviewing people for 15 years now. So I'm pretty good
So
at
not very
figuring.
long.
Yeah, I've interviewed thousands and thousands and thousands of people, right? So having done that for so long, like it's just I can smell through people's bullshit pretty easily. What do you see, Laura, you guys, Laura, Cal on the other side? What do you see? How does the talent on your teams impact your ability to deliver for your client?
So I want to say that I agree with you for most of it. I do read resumes, but mostly because when I make my resume, I put in actual effort into it. So I like to give people the benefit of like, let me see what they're doing. And applying for jobs is the freaking worst. Okay, it really is because it's a job in and of itself. Like half
Sure.
of these things are so annoying because upload your resume and then fill out everything that's on your resume anyway. And I hate it. I prefer going to a recruiter and saying, here's my resume. Let's have a conversation, see if there's a good fit. It's like if you're acting and you are lucky enough to have a good agent, you're way more likely to get cast than
Mhm.
just submitting through these casting agencies over and over again. And it's the same kind of concept. But what I've noticed is sometimes it's really difficult because I can talk to somebody and if I hire them without going through a recruiter, if they've come in direct or I've just interviewing people that have applied and the resume looks good, they seem amazing, it still can be hit or miss because you'll have people that are really good at selling themselves, but then when you actually start, they're just not there.
Mhm.
Or they give you a bit of what they say they can because they're working so hard to get the job, but then they actually can't do it. And I wish that somebody would say, hey, I have this skill set and I like this. I'm not quite at the level you're looking for, but I'm going to work to get there because I would be way more inclined to want that person than the person who comes in telling me that they have the skill set because then I assume you're this top tier person that I have hired for this specific role. And then when you can't do it, it's a thing. And there are some people that will come in,
Mhm.
interview, and then they keep their camera off because we're working remote and you don't know, is this even the same person? Why are they not
Mhm.
talking? And we never want situations like that. So
Mhm.
for me at this point, I try to always go through a recruiting process where there's somebody else vetting that person, not just me, because I'm like you and I want to be like, what a good person. But there's too many times where people, they don't know you. And so when they're interviewing, they want to impress you. It's like a date. Like
Mhm.
you can't tell when you're dating who that person is until date three. On the
Hmm.
first date, you're interviewing each other. No one comes in a first date and is like, I'm messy. Just
Hmm.
so you know, don't
Hmm.
do dishes. They don't
Hmm.
do that. They come in and they're like, I love to cook and take care and clean and
Hmm.
everything that you would want because they're selling themselves. And it's not until like date three, four, five that you're like, this dude,
Hmm.
and whatever it is, you learn those things. And it's the same about yourself. Like, you wouldn't go on a date and advertise those, so you can't expect that person to. And maybe you don't even know that those are negatives for you. And that's the same thing with work. I might think I'm an amazing employee, but to others that are working with me, they may not. Like, I wish when when I'm interviewing someone that I could be like, not a real, like, not a reference they give me. Like, I just want to call references that they're not giving me. It's like if you buy a house, I want to go knock on neighbors' doors and be like,
Hmm.
are y'all freaks? Tell
Yeah.
me about the other neighbors. But no
Hmm.
one really does that.
Well, I mean, then in that to that point though, do you care then if people are using AI to write their resume, to write their cover letters at this point, or is that just sort of assumed and everybody's doing it, and
So,
so you
It's
should get over
assumed,
that?
totally
yeah.
assumed.
No, and it's also like AI is a tool, right? It can be used to make us more efficient, right? If you're not taking your resume and the job description and saying, "Hey, make like tweak my resume for this job description," then you're not using the best resources available. But like at the end of the day, who cares, right? Like of course they're going to use AI for that. But also like how are they using AI in the function of like in doing their job? Because like I don't believe that people are going to like listen, there are going to be job losses in because of AI for sure, definitely. At the same time, that being said, you're more likely now to lose your job to somebody that's using AI as a function of doing their job than to AI in general, right? When you look at productivity studies of the people that use AI as a function of doing their job and those that don't, I mean, you're like you're like 60, 70, 80% more efficient than folks that are not using it, right? So as an employer, especially working in smaller companies, I want you to be able to use AI to do your job. Absolutely. 1,000% I want you to. Because that means you're able to do more work and means we have organizationally we have more capacity.
Agreed. I mean, as a last question, if somebody hasn't done a job search in a really long time, 5 years, 10 years, what should they be doing today that they weren't doing before, or what are they doing wrong today?
Be honest with you, Kev, I haven't had a job with a boss since like 2014, so I have no idea. Like I know how to I am not the guy to ask about from a candidate side because I started Artemis in 2016, right? I have not worked for somebody well, let's shoot. The last time I worked for somebody, Donald Trump was just a businessman. He hadn't started running for president yet, right? Like that's how long ago it was. It was over a decade ago, and so it's like I don't know what the best way to go about it is. I do know that I don't post jobs like unless it's like a receptionist or something. Like the best people are not looking. The best people are on the other side, right? They're happy in their gig until you talk to them and they realize, oh my God, there's something so much better over here.
I fully agree with that because I do think that's a thing. Like everyone that's looking, they're all competing and it's just like dating. Not to say you want to break up that relationship, but nobody really wants that person that's so desperate for love or so desperate for a job. You want that person that's just like, oh, yeah, I mean, I'm working, but like that's an interesting new opportunity. I wasn't really thinking that. And maybe not with dating. Like you don't necessarily want someone that's like, you know what? That is an upgrade from my current relationship. But that person that's okay with themselves and okay to just like not have a relationship is way more attractive than that person that's just like, I can make you pancakes.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Ideally, you want the one that is, happy with himself and can make you pancakes.
Oh, 100%. But
Mhm.
honestly, I can make my own pancakes.
You and me both.
Oh, I love it. We honestly, Nick, this has been super fun. Next time we do one of these like fireside chat episodes, we should do it next to a fire, like an actual fire while drinking, just
I'm
because,
down.
we're not Gen Z.
Correct. No, so I'm totally down points if it can be in a cigar lounge somewhere or something. I've been looking for a podcast studio where I can smoke
Yes.
cigars. I haven't found that one yet, but I really want to
Just
start doing.
Carnegie in New York. We'll just go to New York and go to the Carnegie
We're
cigar
we'll,
bar.
we're going to be in New York together here soon. I don't know
Hell
if you know
yeah.
this.
Oh, I know it. We're always in New York together. Or
Mhm.
you know what? Next time we'll do both. We'll do a New York one and then we'll go to
Mhm.
like DC, what is it? Like Shelley's. Shelly's
Yeah,
Cigar Bar. We'll
I
mix
got a
it
better
up.
one. I got a better one than Shelley's for you. Don't worry.
Oh, don't tell anyone on here.
No, no.
Yeah.
I only promote things that are paying. I'm being paid. I'm kidding. I only promote things I'm really passionate about. I don't let people sponsor me because you're never gonna own me.
Oh, wow. Look at that. I
Hmm.
do let people sponsor me because I don't mind a little ownership as long as I
There,
still have rights.
there you go.
Hashtag me too. No, I'm just kidding. Awesome.
Right.
Well, this was great. On that note, should we end it? Bye, everyone.
Thank
Woo!
you for listening, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Yes.